and we are live with a new episodes of the Talking with Francesco series. Today we have a really special guest. Usually the normal process is that I meet someone on Twitter, then we make a coffee chat, then we make these podcast events, and then we meet in person. With Tess has been like we didn't follow the usual path because we met in Render ATL last year. We will meet again in few weeks, basically. But this episode is all about hair. I want to know about her story, and then we talk about career growth tips. And I think that this it's very important, especially nowadays, especially in 2024, when we need to be more careful about what really matters for us and how we can really level up your career. So this might be very, very important. Tessa, how are you? And please introduce yourself.
I'm doing very well. I am Tessa, head of developer relations at Appright, and I've been in tech for a very, very long time, professionally since 2011. But I got into writing code and building websites back in the late 90s. So it's been that's been my whole life. It feels like. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today.
Nice. And I'm very curious because now I want to know like a bit more about your past. How did you get into tech? This is usually the opening question because I want to know if we have some points in common, and want to know like how has been like your evolution, and also how you get into management, head of DevRel. So we have about 1 hour, but I would like this to be a part of this show, of this event. Hi, Michael. So let's start with like, how did you get into tech?
Oh, we're going to go all the way that far back.
Yes.
Well, I mean, if we start from the very beginning, I was kind of forced into it. I'm lucky enough to have a dad that's always been into computers. He started programming in the 80s as a hobby, but he was a network engineer at that time. And he would build computers and always give me his hand-me-down computers. He used to every time he would build a computer when I was a kid, he'd make me watch and learn all the parts and really understand hardware, which is great. It's been really great that I can just build my computers, fix my own computer issues if I have like a desktop computer. And I started tinkering around with HTML specifically, not HTML5 or XHTML, but this is way back in HTML days. And I really fell in love with like building websites, being able to, do really fancy, highly complex things like blinking text and marquees and adding colors to your text back in the days. And being able to see all that come to life and be like, wow, I've built a website. And this is back when no one really had computers. So it was like hard to like show off and show to friends what I've made. But yeah, I think it was until I was in high school, there was more people starting to have a computer, but still everyone still wrote essays on paper. So, and it's been great because I can type really, really fast. Even in high school, people would crowd around me just to watch me type on a computer. That's like still good memories that linger on. So I think I've like lived my entire life on a computer.
Nice. Now this is it's interesting. I have one random question, which is, what was your first IDE? Like, if you have been coding HTML, like VS Code was not a thing in the 90s. So what were you using?
I didn't even know that, like, back then I thought HTML was a programming language. So I'm like telling people, oh, I'm a programmer now. I'm building websites with HTML and inline styling. But I actually couldn't find a job in tech because there wasn't really many businesses using websites back then. So I kind of stepped away from it for a very long time. I got back into it maybe in 2011, 2010, I think 2010. And then I first started with Visual Basic. think it was Visual Basic. And that was a pain. I didn't like it. It made me question if I wanted to continue with it. And then JavaScript, which was a huge headache trying to learn that. And I also questioned myself again if I can even get into this path. And then PHP. I got into PHP and I'm like, oh my God, programming is so easy. I love web development. And King Cobra. Of course, I'm talking about the 90s here for HTML. But now I'm fast forwarding into 2010. But after learning PHP, it was so much fun being able to, build something and learn how to use a database and learn how to pull data from a database. And it felt so magical. There's just so much you can do with it. And I kind of got hooked since and decided to really pursue a career in that field. But I remember trying to get my first job as a web developer specifically. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Landing that first role feels like it's never going to happen. And, seeing my Twitter feed in the last, 6 months is I see a lot of people in the same situation. And it brings me back those like really negative, really depressing feelings. And I understand them in a different way. I remember applying for, this going back in time is a little sensitive for me. I remember applying for, in 2010, hundreds of jobs. A lot of the interviews were like, why are you even bothering to apply? Like, you're not experienced enough. You're like, it's terrible. Or this interview is a joke. Like, don't even waste your time. There's interview managers that are kind of mean. There's a lot of mean ones out there. And then there's a lot of like nice ones that offer feedback. I always appreciate that. But definitely keep trying. But back then I decided to try something different. I'm like, applying to jobs doesn't work. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to put myself out there. And I wrote up a cover letter and posted it on Craigslist. This was back when Craigslist, everyone was using it. It was like, mainstream, the place for all information. And I posted my dream. I've taken a lot of classes in programming. This is what I've learned. This is my dream. I'll add, so much value to your company. I'm just so eager and hungry to learn more. I want to build, your web applications. I can't even remember what I wrote, but it was like coming from my heart. I kind of spilled out words like of something so meaningful. And after I posted that, a day later, one of the second biggest ski and snowboard company reached out to me, like out of nowhere. And Craigslist is where, companies use to find candidates. And they said, hey, I'd like you to come in for an interview. I'm like, okay, yeah, of course. And I came into the office and it was a huge office. I wasn't sure if it was a scam or I was being tricked, but it was like legitimate in downtown Seattle, a huge building. And they went straight to a technical interview. And they opened up all of their current web applications. And it was built in Visual Basic. No, was it Visual Basic? No, it was Classic ASP. All of the applications were built in Classic ASP. And I've never seen Classic ASP before in my life, but it was built so easy and simple that I can like look at the code and know exactly what it was doing. So they had me they gave me 5 minutes to review different functions and to tell them what it's doing. None of it was commented, by the way. Their previous developer was terrible. I'm like, oh, I can do better than that. So I kind of like went through each section and talked about, what I think it's doing. And then I talked about ways that it can be improved over time. And I asked about like what issues and problems they're facing now, and how would I add value to improving those areas. And it's all about, having that right conversation, being at the right place at the right time. All it takes is just one opportunity, one company that says yes. That's all you need. Like, it's okay to have, 200 no's or 500 no's. All it takes is one yes, and you're set. I came back for another interview, and then with their VP of engineering, and then they sent me an offer after two interviews. But it wasn't really the programming skills I had to offer, but my like ambition and my excitement. Like, I'm like, I just want to learn and just, spend time into this, and I want to do good for you. So they really saw that. And that was probably one of the very difficult jobs, because I didn't know, I thought it was like a junior engineering job. It was actually, I was replacing their senior engineer that left the company. And the expectations was so high and beyond my comprehension level, and I had no one to help. It was like a one-person team. So I'm like, what are the ways you can level up really, really fast as a junior engineer in a higher level role? So I started looking up online, how do people learn really, really fast? Because books don't feel like it's enough. So I looked up different workshops, programming workshops nearby, and went to those. I found meetups. This is how I discovered meetup.com in like maybe 2011, 12. I think I started going there that back then. Maybe it was just workshops for a while. This is so long ago. And I discovered all sorts of ways you can keep learning and improving. And there's a lot of knowledge and information out there that you can discover and keep, learning more. And I think I've spent, and this was back before my kids didn't live with me. So I had like all the free time in the world. I think in 2012-ish, going to different conferences. I started going to conferences. Not that I was able to afford it. I was filling out scholarships and trying to get finding ways that I can go at no cost. Any kind of local events I would try to go to. It's just all about learning and learning and learning and learning, getting as much information as you can. I also reached out to a lot of like senior engineering individuals from meetups and events I went to, and made friends with them and asked them to be a mentor. So whenever I was trying to do something like very complex, I would reach out and say, hey, like, I'm running into an issue. What do you think of this? Is there an easier way to do this? And I guess they call that code reviews these days. So I'd have my code reviewed by friends, and they would help with that. And so I was really lucky to be able to have that type of resources back then, because it's really helped me learn at a faster rate.
You didn't get bored, I would say.
Never. Every minute of the day, I wanted to keep learning and building stuff all night. I would work till maybe 2 a.m. at night, just like doing stuff. So I would spend all weekends working on projects. Even before that, when I was just like taking classes and learning, before I got my first job, I knew that college projects wasn't enough for landing a job. So I reached out to different people I know and say, hey, do you need a website for anything? Do you need a web application for anything? I'll build it for you. So I actually built out my resume from building out real world projects for different people, and been able to like have something on my resume like 15 years ago. Before I've ever even heard of GitHub, no one I've never met anyone who knew that GitHub existed. I think it was just released around that time, maybe 2009, 10, around there. I don't know.
Can't
So
remember
what
exactly
you-
when. But yes, we are starting to get like many questions. Before we can get maybe a couple of them, I find this my story very similar. Like as I said, when you because I also got like really like pushed into a full stack. My first role was like a full stack developer for the European Space Agency. So from zero, I had to learn many things in a short amount of time, and I was also learning during the evenings, the nights, the early mornings. Whenever I had time, I was learning like Docker on absolutely on the side. Now I'm getting lucky, but let's say in the past few years it has been yes, yeah, like now I'm just let's say having fun on social media. But before that, there was like very hard work the years, so I can understand and I can feel. We have many questions. I think we can get some of them. We have many questions about DevRel. I was sure about this, but we can get some of them, and then we get into the career growth, which is I think is more a mindset. So many things can be applied, I think, to DevRel, to development. But maybe I like this one from Jason. Where does the work ethic come from in your case?
My work ethic. It's something I've just always been this way. Even when I was in high school, I always studied. I was also in band. I would, put at least an hour into that every single day practicing. I played sports. Maybe my work ethics comes from always being in a sport. I played a lot of it. I was always going to the gym. I don't think I ever took a break or just relaxed. I was always like on the go, 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 go. If I have an hour of free time, like I, took advantage of that and learned something, or I would put everything on flashcards and I would just keep studying and keep studying. Um, Also, I had really strict parents with really strict rules. I wasn't really allowed to like leave or go anywhere or hang out with friends. They wanted me to just stay home and study. Have a my mom is Korean, so that has something to do with it. And but it paid off very well, so I'm okay with that way of growing up. But yeah, I just really enjoy just learning and keeping and improving life.
Yes, and again, as I said, I found some points in common. I don't know if you know that I've been a volleyball coach for 20 years before getting into tech. So if you
Wow.
ask me, where does your work ethic come from? It's sport. My answer is sport, 100%. In my case, I'm sure that all the discipline, as you said, like never miss a day, because you know that with training you can achieve great goals, great and unexpected goals. So that's something that was also unexpected. Like your answer that was so similar to mine. Nice, curious. So
I love
let's get some questions about how to get started. Like my question was like how to get started with your career. I want to take also this question by Arinda because it's similar. He asks more about the VREL. So like we can make like first of all like a more generic answer of like how to get started your tech career, and then you can if you can add something about getting started as a beginner DevRel, why not? I would say.
Sure. Before I started in developer advocacy, it started with an inspiration of someone mentioning, "Hey, like you've been an engineer, you've done a lot of teaching. Like, have you ever thought about getting into developer relations?" And this was in 2015. And I'm like, I don't really know. What is that? And this person, his name is Mike Stowe. He used to be very active in the public speaking circle. And he actually inspired me to look into it. And I'm like, okay, what are the first steps? This was before it was common. Like, I didn't really have many followers or a big network. So wasn't sure who to ask. And I'm like, where would I start to learn how to be a developer advocate? So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna, shoot my shot and start messaging developer advocates from Google. And I like messaged quite a few of them saying, "Hey, I would love like 30 minutes of your time and learn how you got into your role and, how do I get started?" And I was really lucky someone responded. His name is Anthony Ferreira, who is also big in the PHP community. Um, I think he might have been on the core team. I can't recall. And he was been in developer advocacy for quite a while. And he says, first off, you need to write content. You need to put yourself out there. You need to be active on social media. You need to, do more presentations. You need to have a personal website and have, all of your talks and, everything you can to like brand yourself and put yourself out there. And I started working on everything this person mentioned to me. And that's when I started seeing results. When I started applying for jobs, I was surprised to get so many interviews because I had all that information easy to find. And that's one thing I notice when I'm reviewing resumes is like I'm struggling to find people's like sample work. Where's their technical content? Where's like any information where I can learn about who they are rather than just seeing the same resume. When you see so many resumes, they all start looking the same. Like, how do you make yourself stand out? I mean, I would say things today might be a little different from 2015 when I was starting to look around. Now, if you really want to stand out, if you're applying for a job, don't apply for as many jobs as possible because you're just going to be one of hundreds or thousands of applications. If you really want to work for a company, build something with that company, get familiar with the product, be part of their community if they have a community, get involved, learn as much as you can, and make that stand out in your application or cover letter. And I think cover letters are like really the secret sauce to getting an interview. The resume, not so much. Even if they don't have a cover letter, just try to submit one. Making cover letters, using your voice, not AI. If you write your resume and cover letter with just AI, straight up copy paste style. If only you knew how many of those I've read.
Also with the chat GPT, like talking to you, like that's the worst.
Every single chat GPT keyword you can think of. Like if I take like 10 cover letters, like almost, I would say maybe 75% would use the exact same words and the exact same sentences. So it's a little frustrating. I would say, make yourself stand out by using your voice to allow companies to get to know you in a personable way, but yet professionally, of course. And yeah, the more work, the more content you put out there, the more demos, you will definitely stand out.
Nice, thank you. And it's very important, let's say, to get started in the right way. And I like that you say that it's not about like the number of applications, but it's more
It used
about
to
like
be.
I mean, but just it's if we base this the chances of success just because you sent like 100,000 emails, that's not how you. So maybe yes, it's nice to look around, apply, but from my experience, because I think that also applying requires also some sort of effort. So like it's like a mental stress, mental effort. So I don't know. After sending 1,000 emails, I don't know, I will be exhausted like for the day. Like I would be done for the day. For 2 days, I have to to rest for 2 days because it requires some effort and energy. So
Yeah,
yeah.
finding a job is almost like a full-time job. When I'm looking, I'll spend at least minimum. I've always like had a job while I looked for a job, but even when I didn't have a job, I would spend at least 8 hours a day working on it. Um, Even if I run out of companies to apply for, I'm still like working on skills and learning as much as I can during that time. reading about, best interview practices or how to properly interview, reaching out to people and asking for mock interviews and to help practice, so I can get more comfortable and confident. Just like constantly filling yourself up with knowledge and information, because the more you know, the more opportunities will come.
Yes, thank you, Tessa. I would like to take this one more question because it's relevant to this growth career tips, and by Rakshit, and he asks how to shine out after learning new technologies and making projects, and so land an ideal job at a specific company. So how to shine, because learning and technology is not the same as applying it. So, which are your thoughts?
Which question was this? I'm scrolling
I
up.
I highlighted it in the video.
Oh,
I don't know if you can
how
read
to
it.
shine out after learning new technologies and making projects and to land an ideal job or company. So, one thing I've evaluated from what other people have done that has worked for them, and I can see them landing jobs afterwards, is while you're building, build in public, talk about your progress. Jason Torres does really great with this, so I have no doubt he's going to be very successful very soon. He's at the beginning phases, which is the toughest parts. Um, Talk about what you're building, talk about what you're learning, and talk about problems you've run into. Be public about it, write content about what you're building, and you don't always have to keep things just, formal and technical. You know, talk about the progress. What Where did you fail while putting it together, and how did you, move forward? How did you get unstuck and be able to continue from there? What are different ways or different techniques you use to work on that? And
Yes.
when you're interviewing for companies, they're finding all that information. They're looking at your content, they're reading your writing style, they're learning about you in a different way. So I feel like content is like a secret sauce to make yourself stand out, for specifically for DevRel roles, I would say.
I got my first and also the second DevRel role by creating content. I'm currently working at the lead dev, and the CEO has been in this interview series 8 months before I got the offer for the job. So this is something for sure. For me, it's creating content. It has been the way how I got into DevRel. I was not even looking for a DevRel position, but creating specific content helped me to get into DevRel, which is a position that I really like. I really like. We get this comment by Jason. I want to highlight: shouldn't we treat the job hunt like a job? Don't we want it enough? Food for yeah. Yes, it is. I think it is. Um, I think we have one more by Rakshit, and then we move on. And we get many about DevRel, but in this one is how to get recognized in today's world. If I have skill sets and projects, methods to get recognized, and I think he means like stand out. Best way to reach out to people.
So this would be an easy answer for specifically like open source projects that are also a company. Um, be active on their GitHub repo, contribute to their project, write really, really good, submit really good issues, write really well written PRs. Like sometimes people will just show up out of nowhere and throw up a PR and not really go by any of the contributing rules. So really understanding what the rules are, how the process works for contributing to the project helps a lot. And you'd be surprised, like a lot of the individuals and engineers at our company, we've hired straight from contributors. We'd reach out to them and say, hey, we'd love for you to work for our company. Would you be interested in applying and checking things out? For other companies, I think what helps is probably referrals, reaching out to people on the team, getting to know the people on the team, building trust with them, having conversations, demonstrating the value you could provide for the company. Um, I get messaged very, very frequently. I mean, several times a day of people asking about a job. And, I respect them for taking the time to reach out. But I see a flaw in a lot of these messages, probably all of them. It's just like sometimes it's just a copy and paste, uploading all of their resume and documents and everything they can post with like a whole long message. Like, I don't always have the time to just read one long message. So, if you do any kind of cold reach, keep it short and simple to get a response. Once you get a response, you're most likely going to have a conversation. They're not going to just leave you on unread. And another red flag that I see, or something that's not good, is people pitch themselves and just talk about themselves and things that they've learned, and they just focus solely on themselves. Almost all of the messages are like that. They don't really talk about like, how is that going to benefit our company? They don't tie it to that at all. Like, you need to find a way to tie the value you're going to bring to them, and how and why. And you might see a whole change in how people respond to you. Otherwise, they all just sound the same messages to me. That's my best advice for cold reaching.
Thank you. So take care of these tips, because they can be very important for you to get a job. And yes, of course, because you are basically talking from your perspective of receiving emails. Because I think that you need experience to find a job. And if you don't have experience, you make some mistakes. So that's it. And I think it's normal. It's normal to make mistakes when you find a job, because especially, I don't know you, but in high school they never taught me like how to get to do an interview. They don't teach you this. It's something that you learn it by doing. So
Let's
yes.
just say that I'm really great at interviewing, because I've failed so much and I'm humiliated myself so much through the last 15, 20 years, that you learn from each mistake, and every time you mess something up, you take the time to evaluate yourself, and like, what am I missing? Where am I missing? How can I improve on that? And just continue to keep on improving. And this works for anything in your life. Like, when I had a performance review, my boss mentioned, these are your this was in like 2019. These are your 2 weakest skills. And if there was any kind of improvement you need to make, these are the 2 areas. So I'm like, my goal is to master those 2 areas and be the best possible at it. I bought several books on it. I have been working with an executive coach for 5-6 years now. I bring up any failure points or any problems I have. I bring up these lack of skills that I have and say, like, what are the most efficient ways to work through this and master it? And usually I get assigned a lot of homework. So I've been something I haven't mentioned before, but I hired an executive coach in 2018, and I've been working with him every month on leveling up in my career at a faster rate. And it's really about improving skills. And even if it's not leadership related, even if it's just, for a technical role, you can just keep leveling up if you know where you're lacking and you know what's holding you back. And sometimes having a mentor or other people to discuss this with and have open communication and talk about these things with other people. Talk about the journey you have now and the journey you want to have. And if you're open about, what your goals are, you'd be surprised how much knowledge and information other people will share with you and help you on that journey. And that's something I've been lucky to just have as part of my personality trait, is I'm always like talking about what I want to do in my life and what my goals are. For example, when I was taking programming classes, early 2010, I ran into someone in class and said, "Oh, hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you." And I'm like, what brought you into this programming class? And she's like, "Oh, I'm just trying to, improve on my coding skills because I run a web development business." I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool. One of my goals is to land my first internship. And I've been, really struggling to find these opportunities because I'm not sure where to look." She's like, we should have another conversation about this. I would love to hire an intern. And I ended up landing my first unpaid internship. I've had 3 unpaid internships, by the way, before I got my first job. It helps a lot with the resume, with all my real world projects and my internships. I had like a nice thing to give to companies. So just being open about, what you want, and opportunities will arrive surprisingly, in unexpected ways.
Yes, so wow, I never heard someone doing 3 unpaid internships, so kudos to you. I also made a 6 months unpaid internship, but and this has been probably the single experience that I needed to land the first then full stack position. They needed at least one experience, and I had it. So those 6 months, let's say that they were worth. Like they put a lot of effort, but that's it. Of course, if you have the possibility, probably if you want to switch to tech, if you already have a family, probably you can't you can't take an internship. But if you have the possibility, probably this can be one solution. But yes,
And
and we yeah.
but and sometimes like all my internships like happen by accident, not because I was specifically looking for it. For example, the second internship happened because while I was taking classes, I would finish my programming projects early, and then I would stay after class for like 2 or 3 hours every single day, helping other people with their projects. Not because I was nice, because it was helping me like retain the information and really understand the code that we were writing. Because because I finished my project doesn't mean like I was like good at it. And being there every day, I after after like quite some time, the teacher said, "Hey, I'm looking for an assistant teacher to help with some of my classes. Would you be interested in an internship?" And then that 3-month unpaid internship turned into a 6-month unpaid internship. And that actually turned into a full-time job later on. After I left my role as a developer to teach programming classes full-time. That fell into my lap because the teacher had to leave and they had no teachers for the PHP class that was starting in 2 weeks. And they said, if you can build a curriculum, build a class out and have it ready and start in 2 weeks, we'll let you teach one class. And I prepared all of that, taught the class. The students had such good feedback that they offered me a part-time role, which turned into a full-time role. So this ties back into putting yourself out there constantly, going above and beyond, like will achieve even greater results. Always go above and beyond. Don't be the average person because you'll expect average results.
I'm loving this. Really, no, because really, and I know that our time is limited, but like every sentence you say, it's basically like 1 2 years of like hard work. So I can feel it, even if it's just a couple of sentences, like a 3 months became a 6 months, and that's like time of like daily work. So huge respect for you. I knew something about you, but not so much in detail, and now I respect you even more, of course, because it's not like working hard doesn't even guarantee success, but of course it increases the chances dramatically. That's the thing, and I like this. I like this mindset. So it's not luck. I don't believe in luck. I would say.
Yeah.
I would like to. Yeah. I would like you to, if you can, give talk about the phases of a successful career, like ideally. You know that life, basically, or usually sometimes it plays against us. So it's like random things happening. But what do you think? Like, are some phases if you want to have like a good, successful career, especially in tech? But like, it's more about the mindset.
Assuming you already have a job, right? Like the phases of a successful
Yeah.
career, if you're already in a position. Um, well, first off, I think it starts with being on a team with a good manager and having open communication with your manager to learn on where you can improve, and having a manager that's like clear to you on feedback. You need to have consistent open feedback. If you don't have feedback, how do you know where to improve? You can't just, magically think, "Oh, I'm not doing this well." You don't know you're doing something not well until, someone says, "Hey, like let's talk about this." So being able to have that good communication with the person you report to is quite important. And on the other side of things, that's something I'm trying to work on and improve on, is building these relationships with team members, and having this open communication, and building that trust, and helping them level up in their specific position, which is quite important if you want to level up and work towards your current company, or work towards something else. Another thing is, if you're not learning something new every day, you should consistently learn something new every single day. Even till this day, I'm constantly trying to learn. For example, yesterday I spent some time working on learning mindfulness and learning how to be in the present moment. So that's kind of more like productivity skills. So I can improve the effectiveness of meetings I'm in. And that's something I'm just starting, because I've noticed an area that I'm lacking, that my coach has mentioned. He's like, sometimes you just seem so overwhelmed and anxious, and you're not sure why, and you have no reason to be behaving that way. I think you need to work on mindfulness. And that's when I'm like, what is that? Like, what is mindfulness? I thought I was pretty mindfulness. So it helps when someone points these things out to you, and then gives you the resources of how you can improve on things. And this works for anything. Just keep learning new skills, keep improving on those skills. Even, when it comes to being a programmer, keep learning, like, what are the modern concepts? What are the new things people are talking about? And is it just a fad, or is there a real reason why that's so important to learn? How is it better? Or maybe it's not better. You should like understand these different things. And always go above and beyond expectations, like I mentioned before. It's really important to always stand out.
I love it. I love it because it really shows how, like, instead of let's say uh, talking or just speaking, like like uh, over delivering, like if we can do it, can really help us to level up our career, getting recommendation, getting like referrals. That's it. It's not a case. It's not a random things. Yes. So we have. Let's take one more question. Then we have two more, and then we will end up this first collaboration with Tessa. But you're really sharing so many gems that I'm sure that we are helping someone here in the in the audience. And about the remote jobs, so Alex asks how to apply for remote job. Like, I'm contributing on their projects, so how can I approach them? And I want to, basically he wants to work with the company that is contributing to probably their open source project.
When you say contributing, do you mean you recently started contributing and it's just been like one PR, or has it been just other areas you've been contributing with, like with their community? Um, I think if you just continue and keep doing what you're doing and be patient and then get to know the people on the team, just start conversations, talk about, ways to improve things, and um, talk about the product, and then try to kind of move that conversation directed towards, I, this would be a dream company to work for. Like, this is the place I want to be. I can't imagine anything else. And if you kind of sneak that into their head, they're like, you know what? Let me have a conversation with the right people about this. Like, I'll put in a good word for you.
I I really love how you say it. Basically, you are asking to work for the company without asking to work for the company. You're basically letting them to take initiative and probably hire you. And I want to say that this is actually possible. Currently in Daily Dev, we have not one but two people who became like employees here by contributing to the project. So it's not a case for sure. If we have like two people who like contributed to the project and then they became part of the team. So I think this is a good strategy. I would not do the contribution just for the sake of getting hired. So if you really believe in the project, otherwise might get
That's
frustrated.
that's something I actually forgot to mention in my career journey. Is while I was at one of my first conferences in like 2012, someone like came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm like reaching out to everyone I can find. I'm looking for people to join our open source project." And I'm just like, "Open source project? Contributing? What even is that?" And they're like, "Well, he kind of like went over the details, and I have this rule is always listen to what people have to say, even if it's not something you're interested in immediately, because you never know where it's going to go." So I'm like, "Yeah, here's my email. Let's have a conversation and talk about it." Because like working for free did not seem exciting to me, but I'm like, "Yeah, I'll have a conversation and see where that goes." And I thought it was just a fascinating project. This was 2012, so this was when Joomla.org was just huge, and I ended up joining one of their teams, and an extensions directory team. Then I joined their bug squad team, testing PRs, and then joined their board of directors and their production leadership team. So I've actually been on that project for 5 years, and I've never had any expectations of what I wanted out of it. I just did it because I kind of found like a family. Like, I spent a lot of time alone at home because I didn't have the kids with me at that time. So I was always trying to fill in, a way to like not be alone and sad, but to like have time with other people. And I never go out and do things. Um, so I like dedicated my life into this open source project, which led to them, wanting to pay for all of my conferences. I went to a lot of conferences because of them wanting to send me and kind of advocate the project. And I've learned a lot of my communication skills from making a lot of mistakes. I was terrible at having conversations and talking to people. I was kind of immature back then and quite disrespectful. I didn't know, how to not cross the line of being rude to people. And these series of like mistakes and the consequences of these mistakes back to back to back actually helps you really improve as a person and build up your skill set to be able to bring more value into having an actual job. Um, so with being part of an open source project and having that as my resume, as my experience, like helps a lot. When I got a job at Cisco Systems, one thing that stood out to them that helped me land the job was my involvement in open source. They really didn't care too much about everything else that was on my resume. That was very meaningful to them. My job now, has a lot to do with my past involvement. Even though it's been a long time, it has a lot to do with my understanding of open source communities and being part of one so long. So, like, if you are trying to do something with an end goal of like trying to land a job, you're probably not going to get to that goal as fast as you want it to be, because you're having these set expectations, and because of these expectations, you're going to consistently feel disappointed. And when you have the negative like feelings and mindset, it's actually going to lead you to the path that you're not going to want. So just keep continuing to be awesome, do good things, keep working hard, keep learning as much as you can, and great things will happen for you.
I am a huge fan of this approach, like working hard and then expect that good things happen to you. It worked in this past like 40 years, so I think that I'll keep going with this mindset until retirement, because I noticed that this works better than, I don't know, trying to beg or sending like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of messages. So I try to focus on doing the right things and then wait. So it's for now it worked. I would say. So let's see. That's we're running short of time, sadly, because you had so much to share. But before I let you leave, I would like to ask you this a very important question, which is, what do you think is the real secret for a successful career? If you can choose, I don't know, only one, like one secret for having a successful career. Thank you.
My secret has been having a career coach. Well, I specifically have an executive coach, but a career coach, period. You need to have someone that can have a conversation with you and spot out your personality flaws, your character flaws, your flaws that are preventing you from being able to excel in your life and your career. You need to have someone to have those conversations with you and then give you the resources to improve in those areas. If you're not improving, it's impossible to move up in your life and in your career. If a career coach is not in your budget, reach out and find a mentor. And that's always difficult to do. But just having conversations with people, kind of throwing out that you're looking for, someone to give advice or having a mentor, and, you might run into someone who might say yes.
I like it. It's like the same as if I ask, like, I can't get fit, what should I do? Get a personal trainer. So it's like getting a professional. I loved the part of like exposing your flaws, because sometimes, I don't know, we lie to ourselves. So I don't know, sometimes we have like some like we protect ourselves by the outside with some mechanisms, and so having an external person can just let us know where can we work. So it's I really like this answer. So I think we have time for one or two questions, and then I think we can stop here. I'm trying to see if I find one good one. Let's take this one. So we talk about DevRel shortly. We need another episode, by the way, Tessa. What makes a good DevRel?
A good DevRel, I think the main thing is having good communication skills and being able to talk with developers, talk with leadership at different companies, being able to talk to someone, no matter what their role is in a company, and being able to, communicate these ideas between different teams. Like, let's say you're talking with a developer about something from another company, and then you need to take it internally and talk with, maybe the business team. You need to be able to, transfer this information in a different way of communication, in a way that different teams can understand. Another thing is taking feedback seriously. You can't really improve your product without understanding your developers and your users. Consistently having conversation with your community, get to know them, even at a deeper level, and understand what are their pain points, what are they building, why do they care, why are they using the product? Why are they choosing you over another product? Like, what makes us stand out? How can we improve things? Like, keep working on, feedback. That whole feedback loop is really important. But back then, things were a little different with DevRel. It was really about, the amount of public speaking that you're doing, the amount of conferences you're attending, and it's, it was like that because there was a lot of, investors putting money into the market. There was the economy was doing really well, or it was perceived to, and things are different now. Like, there's like metrics are expected. It's important to have proven concepts. Like, you have to tie your DevRel team's work with your, what are the business objectives for everything that you're doing in your team? How can you tie it to something that shows how much value it has for the company and how much it's helping with the business? Yeah, Sophia is absolutely right. Communication is everything. And I've seen some not so great DevRels in the industry, just watching how they talk to individuals, being more on a defensive mode rather than a listening mode. Being an active listener is very important for communication. Understand people.
Yeah, it's very important. I also think that communication is the best skill, not just for DevRel, but also for developers. So it's probably the most important. You can always learn a new framework, you can learn a new language, you can learn something else. But if you work on the communication skills, that can still be improved, but probably it requires more time, at least from my perception. Like, you can't become a super expert like in a few weeks, but if you have like a good technical background, you can learn like a new framework like in weeks. So it's easier. And as a company, it's probably, yes, it's different. We also have a donation. Thank you so much, Alex. One last question from Michael, and then we'll close up this amazing episode. Any advice for career changers trying to land the first job in tech? When I switched to tech from sports, I thought I was one of the few ones, like 10%. Instead, it's the opposite. Like, most of the people, not most, but like many people, even that I interviewed, they are a career switcher. They were doing something different. So what do you think is an advice that we can give, especially to them?
I've had this conversation actually with other individuals, and I'm like, well, what do you exactly want to do in tech? They're like, well, I'm not sure, maybe code. And I'm like, do you know the different career routes when it comes to being a coder? And they're like, no, I don't. And I'm like, you know what? Go on job sites, like explore different tech related roles. Try to like gather like what are things that are exciting for you? What do you care about the most? What are your favorite things to do? And try to see if you can find a career path in tech that kind of ties into the things you love doing. Like, for example, one thing I love doing is teaching and educating and, putting together little workshops and demos and showing people how to do things, which, led into developer relations, which Jason mentioned. Communication is important, not just technical skills, but the love for educating and teaching people how to do things, I would say, is like the third most important thing for DevRel, going back into that. But yeah, find your niche, find the area that you fit in and explore that area. Maybe follow people that have those job titles, learn from them. What are they doing? How did they get into their role? Maybe ask to meet with people for 5 minutes and to ask some of these questions, learn about them. Like, be an explorer.
Yes, I absolutely agree with this. I think the best solution to land a job is to surround yourself with people who are already doing that. I did exactly the same with YouTube. Like, I surrounded myself with people who are already doing YouTube. Now I am one of them. Like, after now 3 years and a half has passed, but like, it's a great strategy. I would say, if you want to learn how to play the guitar, probably surrounding yourself with guitarists, it's a good idea.
My dad always told me, you are who you surround yourself with. And that's something that I continue to tell my kids, that if you're going to be around troublemakers, you're going to become a troublemaker. If you, follow and surround yourself with people that are in leadership, you will most likely head towards that path, not by accident, but, by working towards that. So I live and breathe by that every day. My kids are picking better friends because of that too. Thank goodness. Oh my goodness.
It's true. It's true. I agree. Tessa, we crossed 1 hour, so I didn't keep my promise to keep it shorter. But I would like you to share a final message for people that are here in the audience, and then we can close this first collaboration. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you everyone for joining. If you are, going through any struggles in your life, if you're looking for your first tech role or your job in tech, do not give up. Just keep trying. Keep finding ways to work through those low times in your life. I know what that feeling is, and it's hard to get out of that mental state when you're trying so hard and not seeing the results you're expecting. Just keep pushing through one day at a time, and you will find your way. Things will work out. I promise you.
Thank you so much, Tessa. And we left the link in the description to follow her literally everywhere. And also, she's very active in the Upright ecosystem. I also highly recommend you to try Upright. I have also the special T-shirt today, if you see it. And they sent me. So thank you, Tessa. I don't think that 1 hour was enough, but probably not even 4 hours would have been enough. So we probably need a Tessa series. And yes, thank you. And I hope this was useful even for people. But I see that people are really, really happy about this collaboration. It's time to show some love to Tessa, especially if you got some good reply. And yes, we already crossed 1 hour. So thank you, Tessa. It's I hope that we'll take another selfie, another picture together in a few weeks at Render ATL. I think it's in June. We're in April, so it's basically in 2 months. So I think it's time to get our talks ready. I would think
it's going to be great. I can't wait.
It will. Thank you so much for coming. And yes, so see you. We have one more episode next week, and that's it. Yes, I really loved this. I loved the part of surrounding yourself. You are who you surround yourself with. So I really agree with that one. Thank you so much, and bye everyone, and see you in the next episode. Bye everyone.
Bye. Thank you.